I've been a media research nerd for a really long time, and I was working on a recent sort of global project looking at VOD and linear TV across a whole bunch of geographies. And I think it's an interesting question to me how predictive or not what's happening in the US is for the rest of the world. So I think mostly US folks here, but hopefully this will be useful for everybody. Our topic today is, let's see, what's the official? Free and partially free ad-supported channels are on the rise. What is the best consumer experience? What are the expectations of marketers, and how are publishers monetizing inventory? So to answer that, I've got the esteemed team from Brown, Brown, and Blacker. Peter thought of that. Melanie Brown, who's the director of advanced products at Tubi and had to suffer with me as her worst client when she was at VideoAmp and I was at OMG.
I would hardly say worst. Only client.
Well, so I was the best. Awesome. Danielle Brown, who's the SVP of Data Enablement and Category Strategy at Disney Advertising. Go Mouse. And Peter Blacker, who's the EVP of Streaming and Data Products and also the head of DEI, Global Ad Sales, NBC Universal, based out of Miami, which I didn't know that was a thing, but that's awesome.
One and only.
Today we're going to talk about ad-supported streaming, both AVOD and what my friend Alan Wilk claims to have coined the term FASTs to describe, free ad-supported streaming TV services that use linear channel structure rather than pure on-demand. And we've got sort of an interesting mix of capabilities along that spectrum on the panel today, which is exciting to me. So I don't know if my B list here, which is B list because they start with B, not because they're actually B list, are going to end up talking about BVOD, which is a term that I recently learned working with some European companies, which I think is just AVOD that is supplied by the broadcasters, which in America I think is most of it, except for Netflix. It's half of it anyway at this point. But anyway, we're going to spend the next 40 minutes or so talking about evolution of ad-supported platforms. And I'd like to start just by giving each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves, sort of talk about the journey that your company's been on to get into the AVOD space, because I think they're all very different stories, and the path from where you are to the sort of current content and services portfolio. Now let's start with you, if that's okay.
Cool. My name is Melanie Brown. I run advanced TV products at Tubi, which is the largest and fastest growing free AVOD in the US, and expanding internationally as well. Tubi is built different. It's pretty unique. 10 years ago when Tubi was founded, not as Tubi, there actually was no CTV ad server in the space. And so essentially the founders of Tubi went out and built what they needed as a company called AdRise. And fast forward to today and the pivot to content, we've got more than 50,000 titles in our library. We recently launched Tubi Originals, which leverages a lot of viewership information and cool ML and stuff too.
And the Freak Brothers.
And the Freak Brothers, which is one of our Tubi Originals that has been a pretty big hit and is a lot of fun. I think I'll toss it to Danielle.
My name is Danielle Brown. I'm SVP of Data Enablement and Category Strategy at Disney Advertising. I lead 3 teams, our data enablement team, our measurement team, as well as our industry vertical team, so CPG, retail, tech, telco, and bringing all of our solutions together in a strategic way and providing insights to our customers to be able to help them best deliver their audiences across our portfolio. So the journey at Disney has been a really amazing one. I've been there for over 2 decades, starting at ESPN. But since I was 4, exactly. But our streaming footprint is truly incredible when you consider Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu. Hulu is the largest ad-supported, in terms of monthly active users, largest ad-supported streaming service. And we really have taken a ton of the learnings from Hulu and the experience from Hulu, which is 15 years old, if you can believe it, and applying those learnings and best practices to ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. Disney Plus became ad-supported in December, so it's a 6-month-old baby. And then we have ESPN Plus, which is about 5 years in. So the variety that we have really creates incrementality and low duplication across our streaming services. So when advertisers come to us and we are making recommendations on how to best reach their audiences, we can do that through the insights that we have across the streaming portfolio. So really exciting to be in the space and be at one of the largest in terms of content, IP, as well as scale.
Awesome. Hi, I'm the third B in the lineup here. My name is Peter Blacker, and as mentioned, I head up our streaming and data products as well as our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. And our journey has been also a unique one. I've had the privilege of being at the company for 18 years, and I actually came on to help launch one of our division's internet offerings. It was a very unusual time. We were owned back then by General Electric, and there was a very small group of us that were tasked with trying to begin a journey into anything that was sort of nonlinear. And as it's evolved over time, we had sort of two paths. One that was SVOD related, which was all licensing, and the AVOD was all around our apps and around our websites. and so watching those evolve was quite an interesting experience. And because I was inside of one of our brands, Telemundo, and we did most of our stuff in Spanish, we had a lot of opportunity to experiment. So we did really fun partnerships, including with Tubi, and launching a bunch of really interesting channels. Fast forward to our own sort of official launch in the AVOD space with Peacock, which is only 3 years old, actually coming up on our 3rd birthday.
Oh, wow.
And we decided to launch with advertising right at the core, right at the beginning, which was a big distinction from anyone else in the space, and has really provided us with some excellent learnings, as everybody up here has had, but also a chance to play with our full spectrum of content. So, for example, we are able to bring premium movies on with advertising from the beginning. We're able to do live sports in ways that we wouldn't have been able to do had we not brought AVOD. So I'd like to say that because I started early in the AVOD sort of journey, being part of where Peacock is now is really exciting because we'll learn a lot of bumps, scrapes, bruises.
So you've gone from the days of the content and microwave programming department to
Yes,
like,
indeed.
integration all the way across. And then that same guy did the creepy alien ads for Hulu, as I recall. Remember the early Alec Baldwin Hulu ads? With the, yeah, those were very good. They were actually a little scary, in fact, in a good way. And he was right. The campaign was right. It did eat television. Yes. So, here we be. We talked a little bit about just sort of the general content portfolio. Can you talk a little more specifically about how how you think about the user experience with regard to the content portfolio, right? So the ad experience in the FAST side of a FAST looks like a linear TV experience, and the VOD side a little bit different. But like Disney Plus has a very different advertising experience than Hulu does. Yeah. And I know you're responsible for selling sort of across the whole portfolio. How do those decisions get made? How does that work?
Sure. So Disney at its core is all about consumer experience and guest experience, whether it be from the parks to our streaming services. So as it relates to your question, yes, for Hulu, we have a very different approach versus Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. With Hulu, we really pioneered a lot of the ad products that are out there right now based on the insight of consumer behavior. Pause and binge are natural things that people do when they're watching streaming, and we pioneered those technologies across our platform because we knew those were common tendencies for a consumption habit for a consumer. With Disney Plus, we are really being meticulous about a light ad load and being very meticulous about the types of ads that people consume on Disney Plus. Disney Plus is the home of some of our amazing IP, such as Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel. And we know that the super fans are really particular about what they see and what they want to look at when they're watching our platforms, as well as National Geographic and others. So in terms of consumer experience on Disney Plus, it's not going to be a lift and shift in terms of what we learned on Hulu. We know that the consumer's different. As I mentioned, there's incrementality with each of our streaming services, so we know there's audience differences, and we are really being surgical about deriving the insights on the platform and driving the ad products and the technologies from Hulu that make sense, and then deploying new ones as well that make sense for the Disney Plus universe. And then ESPN Plus is sports all day, every day. Sports consumers are very used to seeing sponsorship. They're very used to seeing, frequency. It might be a little bit different on ESPN Plus versus the others because they're used to seeing a sponsorship association with intentional frequency. So that build on sports is very different from the others. So we are very conscious of user experience and making sure that the ad products that we deploy on each of the services make sense for that consumer segment.
I would only say there's a lot of similarities. Obviously, we also come from the Hulu family, so we grew up and took some of those experiences as well. I like the idea of not lifting and shifting. I think that's a good one. I got to
That's a great
start
way to
using
say
that.
it, too. I've never heard that before.
I love that. But I think one of the things that we've done that's a little different is we actually are housing everything underneath the Peacock brand. So we brought all of our live sports. We had the World Cup men's last year. We have the Women's World Cup starting in a few weeks. Those are going to be inside next to our feature movies, next to Spanish language telenovelas, next to all of our Bravo, Scandival stuff that everyone can't get enough of. And to your point, we're also respecting the fact, we like to call it a pristine ad environment. We have really understood that advertising can be quite additive to the experience, no pun intended, but it has to be respectful, and it has to be something where the consumer elects and wants to have it. And so in our case, over 90% of our audience is actually selecting ad-supported, and we want to keep it that way.
Wow.
And so we know
That's
it's got to
really
be
high.
It's very high, and so we're very cautious looking at all the metrics all the time to make sure we're not in any way creating a problem.
I think from the Tubi perspective, a lot of our focus has always been on the user experience and the viewer's experience. And so, by virtue of the fact that we had our own proprietary tech stack, ad server, and SSP, we're really able to keep a close watch on the user experience and ensure that through a bunch of different controls that a user who is selecting a piece of content to view on Tubi is really receiving the right ad inside of the right content. We've pioneered a few ad products as well. We've got a product called Advanced Frequency Management, which is able to sort of look at content and look at ads from across channels. So not just those direct sold by Tubi, but anything that comes in through our programmatic partners or our channel partners, and really determine where is this ad being served, who is it being served to, have they seen this creative too many times, and then sort of cap that frequency to a viewer who's seen it, and allows that advertiser to then reach somebody new, because you're not wasting your frequency on somebody who's already hit their frequency cap. It's a really interesting time to be in the ad tech space. Again, owning all of our own tech means that all that return path data from more than 25 distribution platforms that Tubi lives on and is installed in natively comes right back to us. That allows us to really build some interesting data products. We're working on releasing something called Campaign Insights, which is really going to be a game changer for advertisers in terms of learning more about their audiences on Tubi and then using that data to help fuel future activations. Being in that perfect space between digital video from an addressability and a data-driven standpoint and the sort of scale and mass reach of television is hugely beneficial for us, and our advertisers are really seeing that as well.
Awesome. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, you mentioned linear. We obviously have a very strong linear footprint at Disney between ESPN, ABC, and all of our linear channels. So the other thing that I would add is that, Hulu is really a vehicle to do next day. So we promote a lot of our content on ABC as an example. Watch next day on Hulu. So we're driving that streaming consumption. And in addition to that, our audience graph really powers relevancy for our customers. So we have an audience graph that's been built in-house, not bought or rented, that has been being built over the past 7, 8 years. That consists of 250 million device IDs, maps to 110 million households. So we know a lot about our consumer, and we are doing implementation of data in the most privacy compliant way through clean rooms, which we've stood up over 100. So it's not conceptual, it's real, and we're actioning within the clean room across both activation, insights, and measurement. So, we really are powering, and everything that we do from an audience perspective is really powered by our audience graph. And we're able to create that relevancy and connect with consumers, still with that emotional connection that Disney has, but with the science behind it as well. In addition to that, our programmatic stack gives advertisers the ability to tap into those audiences however they choose to, whether it be PG, PMP, whatever buy type they would like. We have those capabilities through really integrated partnerships with a lot of the DSPs that are out there.
And that's sort of where I wanted to go next. You raised the issue of sort of frequency capping within platform. Mm-hmm. But I know from living on the buy side, for a while nobody sort of noticed that, because the streaming viewers and the linear viewers were mostly different viewers. It was not such an issue thinking about how to integrate across. And then what happened is, on one hand, I think that trend became more extreme, and there became fewer linear viewers and more stream-only viewers, which meant that you had hideous overfrequency on the linear side because you had the same number of dollars and GRPs chasing a smaller and smaller audience. And on the other hand, on the streaming side, there still aren't great frequency controls when you start looking across the whole sort of pyramid of ad sales rights, and the inability even on the measurement side for anyone to see across all of those. And I think you partially just addressed that you've got the first party data that's validated, that you know who those people are, and so you certainly can manage that within your own environment as well. Anything happening with it, like both within your platform and then to have that be more of a collaborative enterprise? Because we did studies at OMG on sort of negative reach, right, and the idea that a certain absurd level of overfrequency was super bad for brands. Well, and so, I think we all need to try to fix that.
I think that in hearing my fellow panelists speak here of BB&B, the good news is we're all leaned into the exact same spaces, and we're all coming at it with a tremendous amount of resources, because we know, and we're here in Cannes, it has to be solved. Like, these are table stakes. It's not that only one company is going to have it. In our case, we use our first-party data from our theme parks, from Fandango. Disney has their own, Tubi has their own. We have to make it easy and transparent for marketers to be able to leverage our full footprint of linear, of out-of-home, our streaming platforms, now our fast channel platforms, to make their advertising work for them. And then it's a really exciting ecosystem to work in. Otherwise, we're going to play a bunch of shell games, and audiences will come and go, and so will the advertisers. So it's exciting because all three of us are basically saying the same thing, which is, yes, we need to utilize first-party data. Yes, we need to lean in, and we've got to make it easier.
We've also done a ton of modeling work around reach and frequency across Disney. And because of our scale, we actually can achieve the most reach with the minimum amount of frequency for an advertiser. So we modeled out what a campaign would look like over the course of 4 weeks in fourth quarter. and we actually can achieve maximum reach with the minimum amount of frequency. So that's something that we are very vocal about in the marketplace, because we know that advertisers want to reach their audiences but not hit them over the head with the message. So we really are out there doing a lot of modeling work and optimization work on behalf of our advertisers and bringing that to the table when we're talking to them. So that's been really well received, and we've been out talking about that for the past few months.
What's up in Tubi land there? I mean, I know you had the advantage of building your own ad server and therefore the ability to control really well within it. I don't know how that fits into the rest of the Fox family, but it also raised, I mean, I think for everybody, it's now how do we get them to talk to each other at least enough to not do dumb things for the same people. And I think knowing who the people are and knowing what you're delivering to them are the first, you're not going to get there without that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so Tubi was acquired by Fox in 2020. And what's really fantastic is, all of Tubi is streaming. More than 80% of our viewership happens on video on demand. So it's really leaned in, engaged viewers, which is totally separate from a lot of Fox's bread and butter, which are the broadcast networks, which are Fox Sports. And that is kind of, to Jonathan's point, there is that large disparity sometimes between the linear viewer and the streaming viewer. And so we really view ourselves as a fantastic complement to what Fox is doing on the linear side. And recently you may have seen an announcement that we have now formed the Tubi Media Group, which is working even further on kind of unifying the Fox and Tubi identity space and audience on the back end as far as the technology and the tech stack is concerned. And that's really where it starts, to your point, is sort of bringing all of that together, having a unified identity that you can understand who your audience is, you can understand where they've been reached before, and then, the sort of run stage of that is then collaboration. OpenAP is just, taken off now.
Fingers crossed. Indeed. And how does that, just to shift perspective a little, because I wanted to go here, when I was on the agency side, I was there, started in 2016 when the notion of sort of truly integrated video buying was at best a story that we were starting to tell, but a long way from what we were actually doing. And I think that really has changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. And the pandemic and the kicking up the streaming adoption rapidly pushed it there. I think NBCU really were the first ones doing full portfolio selling.
One platform.
Can you? I'd like to know, for each of you, how are your, giant network corporate parent plus your streaming platform? How are you taking that to market, and what's the journey been to bring the buyers who are, all on their own journeys to get there along for the ride?
I think the word journey is the right word, because it's a journey, meaning we're in it. We're clearly going to keep trucking along. I think it's a journey where you're never fully done. In our case, we really wanted to look at how do we leverage the Comcast, our parent company, their footprint, their data. How do we leverage our theme parks, and how do we leverage things like Fandango, and in addition, look at how we can make it, again, easy for a client, for a partner, to be able to see things as you were saying, model them out, make it very, very clear, because at times I feel like, yes, we have all this great data, but we weren't even able to explain it well to ourselves, much less let a client be able to interact with it. So one of the things I've been trying to help us do is really simplify it, make it very easy to understand where's that incrementality. We're doing a campaign right now which actually includes physical presence in our theme parks. So trying to weave that in, linear with theme park presence and digital and social. And so again, I think it's a journey.
In terms of how we go to market, 5 years ago, Rita Farrow, our president of advertising, brought all of the brands under one team, one portfolio sell. I came up through ESPN, so I was really excited to be able to sell into the sports, the entertainment side of the business. So that was a really exciting development for all of us. So the reason that she did that is because she wanted to create easy access for our marketers and our agencies to be able to get to where they need to go faster. So the way that we're set up is there's agency teams, there's industry vertical teams. My strategy team works very closely with the sales side of things in order to provide insights, aggregate all of the great packaging and capabilities that we have in order to bring advertisers what they need and get there quicker. The other piece of that, I was talking earlier about the audience graph and programmatic. We have really been laser focused on interoperability. We've brokered a deal with the Trade Desk. We announced this week, a deal with Google.
Feels like a year ago.
Yes, it feels like a year. I'm sure the teams that all were in the weeds on it definitely feels like it's longer than a year. But interoperability and access and measurement within our clean room and within a one-stop shop and the technology that is powering that's really what we've been really laser focused on. So that one point of access, I think, has really helped accelerate everything that we're doing at Disney Advertising. And with the power of IP and the emotional connection that we have to fans, I feel like it's the best combination you could ask for.
Similar to my, panelists, we also have a portfolio offering with Fox. A one Fox buy can commit budgets to the linear side of Fox, including sports, including the Super Bowl, but then also leverage access programmatically. And I'm so glad that you brought up clean rooms because it's my favorite topic. And so we are, working with, with our team, with our partners, to enable as much as we can advertiser access to the data that is important to them. And, bringing everything together from linear and programmatic, a huge chunk of the Tubi business is programmatic. Which is a contrast to the linear side of the Fox business. And a really great way to help bring those two things together is, again, unified identity inside of a clean room solution or multiple clean room solutions. I love that you have 100 clean rooms set up. That's fantastic.
I don't know, that kind of creeps me out. It's like, it reminds me of, what's the Apple TV show? With
Severance?
It reminds me of walking the hallways in Severance.
I haven't seen
Universe
it.
is branching
You
off.
shouldn't, you shouldn't be creeped out. It's the most privacy compliant way to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but,
I think it's the name.
if we're gonna go there, that show was about the ultimate in privacy compliance on some level.
I actually haven't seen
They
it.
erase your memory when you go home. So.
Oh, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we know how yet, which is.
It's probably a good thing.
I don't really want to think about that now. Please continue.
Now I lost my train of thought. I'm too busy thinking about all the alternate universe mells that have been branched off since
clean rooms. We were
multiple
hallway
clean
of
rooms.
multiple clean rooms.
We have multiple clean rooms. And so our partnerships with LiveRamp, with TransUnion, with Habu, most recently the Fox partnership with Snowflake that we will likely take advantage of as well. Are really going to work on bringing everything closer together and, providing all of that information to our advertisers, activating all of that in the ways that they want to, and additional integrations on our side with, something you and I know very well, which is VideoAmp, in terms of cross-platform planning, including both linear and CTV and digital data in that kind of unified plan is going to be really important moving forward for advertisers.
That's a great entree into what I wanted to talk about next, which is data availability and measurement. I'm now leading the SIM working group on the TV data ecosystem, and we have sort of two pillars that we're looking at, and one is just improving access to TV, what I would call delivery data. So this ad or program was on this TV set at this time, which we can debate whether we call that impressions or whether it gets multiplied by a co-viewing factor or whatever. So I like to avoid controversy by saying delivery, and that can come from ACR, it can come from set-top boxes, it can come from streaming servers, it can come from SDKs, I don't really care. I would like to at least have a unified way for people to access that. I know that sort of OpenAP is with the JIC really pushing into that direction. from a streaming point of view today, and I hope that that goes to linear. And then the other piece of it is the standardization, or not standardization, interoperability. Like at least making the data formats interoperable, if not all the same. Because I have lived for many years in the match the set-top box data from 3 different providers, and it doesn't really match, and everyone uses different household IDs, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm hoping we can get to a close to census measurement someday. And I'm just wondering, how are you guys working in that measurement ecosystem? Like, do you touch that in your roles? I mean, I kind of know what all the companies are doing because I've worked with them.
I'm very dependent on I benefit from working with some really awesome people in the space. Kelly Abkarian, who has been very outspoken in terms of currency and obviously our position just overall with the JIC and being.
Shout out to Maggie Zhang too. Yes. Maggie's one of my favorites.
So I think again it goes back to this idea that we've all been saying, which is we need to work together. There needs to be collaboration, and it needs to be comprehensive, because at the end of the day, if we're working with a brand, and the brand is going to work with all of our companies, they need to be able to have some visibility to make sure that their plan is working. We're doing a good job of understanding our own backyard, but we also need to make it easy for that measurement, that accountability to cross the industry. And it's a little tricky when you have multiple currencies. Someone used an analogy at a media event I was at the other day where they said it would, like, imagine you're riding around a taxi and you go to pay, and they don't take credit cards, but they take different currencies that you don't have, and you're like trying to figure it out, and you're cobbling together what used to be the euro. I mean, it's sort of, we're in that phase right now. We've got to figure out how do we make it easy for clients to be able to transact.
We're working with all of the alternative measurement partners, and we actually announced yesterday with VideoAmp we're going to be scaling our measurement use cases with them. We have a really unique instance with VideoAmp, and everything that we're doing for Disney is to ensure that advertisers, agencies can access our audiences and measure against those audiences and objectives. With the lens of the way that our ecosystem works. So we have officially tipped the scales in terms of linear to addressable. We are now more addressable than linear.
Wow.
So it's a big day in terms of, like, now we're just about 50-50, but tipping more towards the addressable side of things. So building unique instances for advertisers to be able to access audiences at scale with Disney is super important. So we're working with VideoAmp, iSpot, et cetera, to be able to deliver on those measurement capabilities. The most important thing is making sure that when we're looking at measurement, that they are mapping to our CTV footprint, because CTV is such a big part of our sell and a big part of our inventory. So ensuring that those match tests are ideal. Like yesterday, we were talking to VideoAmp, and our match test with them was 85% match. So that's like, it was a really strong, and that took years of co-development with them in order to get there.
I've been living in that world for a decade. That is not nothing.
Right. So it's a significant effort, but it pays off because we know that our audiences will be represented accurately. And obviously, that those capabilities are going to extend into the programmatic space, et cetera, because we are doing a lot through the clean room activation arm. So advertisers will be able to, and more agencies will be able to access those audiences through clean room and through programmatic means as well.
All right, Mel, you get the last word. We're getting signal to wrap up. And then I have one very important speed round question.
All right. Well, again, at Tubi, we have the benefit of really being ad tech first. And, Danielle mentioned Disney's direct integrations, and, we've had direct integrations by virtue of having our own SSP with the Trade Desk, with Yahoo, with Beeswax, with Adobe and Amobi and Centro, and I'm definitely missing one. The new Microsoft, the artist formerly known as Xander as well. And, awesome. And so all of that data, again, everything that we do is keyed to some kind of identifier that can ultimately be tied back to a person and be considered addressable. And those advanced audiences have always come our way because of that fact. And now, we're also working with VideoAmp and with ComScore as alternatives to the Nielsen DARs of the world. And, that really is sort of allowing us to prove out the value of Tubi's audiences. We have such a diverse library of content on our platform that the people who we get on Tubi, oh, man down, the people that we get watching Tubi really are very unique, and we're able to reach them in exactly the right ways by the right advertisers.
All right. Speed round. I'm microphone challenged right now, but I can hold it. You guys have been holding them the whole time. So thank you all. This has been awesome. I'm wondering, we're in South France. The food's awesome here. You probably are at all the fancy parties. What's the best single food item you've eaten since you arrived in Cannes?
I gotta
I
give
can
shout outs
start
to here.
if you want.
I gotta say the dessert things that we just had were out of this world. I wanted to have one, I ended up with 3, so I guess guilty.
I have to also say the dessert here has been amazing. I have a big sweet tooth. It's really bad, but the apple tart was delicious in there.
Fantastic.
I did not get to try the dessert out there, but I will
We're
now.
going over.
But last night, actually, for dinner, I had this fantastic truffle risotto that I feel like I'm going to think about for the rest of my life.
So I'm going to close with I don't know if I can get to one, but it's between, I had this hors d'oeuvre that was like foie gras on a dark chocolate little bed at the Progress Partners party the other night, and shrimp carpaccio, which I didn't know was a thing yesterday. So, eat well, enjoy the south of France. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.